Hey, Frank,
Exactly.
this weekend out in Brooklyn, Donovan Mitchell Jr. will be throwing out the first pitch at the Brooklyn Cyclones game. It will also be Donovan Mitchell Jr. bobblehead night in Brooklyn. What does this
Yeah.
mean? Will you be in Brooklyn, and will Donovan Mitchell be playing for the Knicks next year?
Great job by the Cyclones because, A, you're going to get a lot of media people there. I think you'll get a lot of fans, or you'll get a lot of Knicks fans there. But it's also funny because, as you know, Richard Jefferson came out after the story, after Adrian Wojnarowski had reported that the Jazz are willing to listen to offers. He said, where's the loyalty now? As if Donovan Mitchell doesn't want to be traded to New York. Notice how Kevin Durant, it's out there that he wants to be traded. He's maintained a low public profile. Now, he's still on social media, but you really haven't seen him. Donovan Mitchell, more than happy to show up at a game in Brooklyn where he knows everyone's going to bow down to him and he's going to get all the cheers and things like that. So he wants to come to New York. The Knicks have been, plotting to get him now for 2 or 3 years. The deal that I guess was reported by The Athletic, the 6 first-round picks and all those players, the Knicks would be crazy to do something like that. And you have to be careful with Danny Ainge because Danny Ainge doesn't always hit a home run. The trade for Kyrie Irving didn't work out. But Danny Ainge is pretty shrewd, and he knows what he's doing, and he knows that the Knicks really want Donovan Mitchell. But, I like Donovan Mitchell, and he's going to be an upgrade, but the guy is generously listed as 6'1". He's not a big player. And if you're Allen Iverson, Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas, you could be, there have been guys that could be that size and could be franchise players. In the case of Isaiah Thomas, he did win 2 championships. But, you're not getting Kawhi Leonard or LeBron James here. So I think the Knicks fans are excited, and it's a big name. But let's remember, he did get bounced in the playoffs in the first round this year. Last year, as the best player on the Utah Jazz, they lost their final 2 games to the Clippers, and the Clippers did not have Kawhi Leonard. So, yes, he's a good player. I think it's going to happen at some point. If I'm the Knicks, I'm not giving up the farm to get him by any stretch of the imagination. But it's not the end-all, be-all.
Well, if he does come to the Knicks and they make the playoffs, let's just hope he doesn't punch a fire extinguisher in the middle of a series. Frank, you've been covering basketball for a long time. It's got to be a trip for you to see Jalen Brunson get the bag from the Knicks and be the starting point guard for the Knicks. What are your earliest memories of young Jalen Brunson?
This is a true story. 1999, during the NBA playoffs, his dad, Rick, was on the Knicks, probably the last man on the team, and he was very close with Marcus Camby and especially Latrell Sprewell. The 3 of them were as thick as thieves. And, there were a couple of times when Jalen would come into the locker room all the way back then. I mean, he was real small back then. And I got to know, I got to be pretty close with Rick, and I became close with Leon Rose. Even I don't think, now that Leon's worked for the Knicks, I don't think I've spoken to him in 3 years. But a bunch of years ago, my daughter had committed to Villanova, and I was driving home from the school, and Rick said to stop over at his house. I stopped over. He was having a barbecue, and Leon showed up, and Jalen was there. Remember Tim Perry, who played in the NBA, who played at Temple, and I think was famously included in the Charles Barkley trade, if I'm not mistaken, with the Phoenix Suns. He was there with his son, who was getting ready to play college basketball. So I got to know Jalen really well. He's a great person, and he's for the Knicks. To me, I get the money and everything like that, and everyone's going to say, "How can you, all this money giving it to Jalen Brunson?" He's a low maintenance, high production player. He's going to make everyone else around him better. He's mature. Ben, you and I always make fun of the Miami Heat and the media with the Heat culture. A guy like Jalen Brunson is going to help your culture. That's the kind of guy that you want. For me, I think it's a terrific player for the Knicks to get. You need to start somewhere, and getting him, he's only going to make, look at the way Quentin Grimes has played in Summer League. He's been very good. All these young players, Brian Scalabrine, you heard him say today on radio, where he said, having Jalen Brunson with all these young guys is a great move for the New York Knicks.
Hearing Frank Isola fired up for the New York Knicks point guard position in July, what is happening?
I keep it real. All these other fans, every move they make, it's the greatest thing ever. You tell people to pump the brakes, and then they call you a hater. Listen, my opinion isn't always right, but I do believe. Listen, am I somewhat biased toward Jalen Brunson? Yes, I am. But I think he's I could not believe that he went in the second round, which tells you that a lot of GMs miss it a lot of times. The guy did win 2 national championships when he was at college, and he had good players on his team, Mikal Bridges, Eric Pasco, but he wasn't playing with Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, and Cam Reddish at Duke. And the guy won 2 national championships. He was a national player of the year. He's a really good player who wins, and look at how well. I think what really cemented it for him was if you go to Game 1 against Utah this year, where you don't have Luka out there, and Jalen had the really big game. Listen, was he great in every playoff game? Of course he wasn't. But he's a really good player who's going to make the Knicks better. And you know what's going to happen, Ben? You and I both like him, and 5 years from now, everyone's going to say, I knew that he'd be great. They're not going to give us any credit. So we're already ready. We're already ready not to get credit for